It's my honor to speak in this meeting. My topic is development of ADR monitoring in China. I work in the National Center for ADR Monitoring in China, and I'm also a member of several professional academic associations. And one thing should be stated that the views expressed in this presentation are my own and do not necessarily reflect those of CDR. And first, I want to talk about the history of ADR monitoring in China. About 2,000 years ago, an Asian book of China traditional medicine, Shenlong Bencao Jing, has classified the TCM about 3 levels based on his toxicity of drugs, and the upper, the middle, and the lower. And at about 1950s, China conducted systematic collection of single drugs, ADR, penicillin, and our center has established about 1989. And in 1999, the State Department reorganized the CFD, and this is a brief general review of National ADR Monitoring System of China. And we collect the ADR report data from medical institutions, from sales and product enterprise and individuals. And we also detect risk signals from the database if the signal is related to the If signal is related to possible quality defects, we will organize on-site inspection and product testing. And if the signal is confirmed, the enterprise will required to suspend the sale, recur, and withdraw from the market. And if the signal is related to the ADR of the drugs, we will launch data analysis and literature research and prove the ADRs. And the signal, if the signal is confirmed, and the instruction of the drug will be revised, and the indication will be increased, and even the drug will be withdrawn from the market. And this is a window of National ADR Monitoring System of China. We have built several modules to extend its application. And based on the spontaneous report date, we will publish annual report for National ADR monitoring every year. And the Chinese ADR information bulletin will publish to alert the serious ADRs irregularly. Recently, we face more and more challenges about the regulation decision based on the spontaneous report date because the limitation of the date. And the regulatory authorities want to know the prevalence of the drug-induced disease and want to obtain the evidence of the safety. But in fact, we lack awareness of the prevalence of DIDs, and some drugs, the warning information of the instruction are inadequate. This is a research of Buguchi, a traditional Chinese medicine. We found some possible risk factors such as high dose and components treated by alcohol and used in skin disease. But in fact, it is difficult to evaluate the risk level and causality of the Buguchi and the level injury. So this is a limitation of spontaneous report system. We want the evidence to support the regulatory decision. So we choose the real-world data and real-world evidence. This is the definition of FDA. RWD can come from a number of sources, such as electronic health records. But The course from real-world data to real-world evidence, I think, can be defined as real-world study. About the real-world study, we have some consideration about it, and I think the multidimensional observation and analysis is very important. So we were on the one side viewpoint, and also it should be confirming the actuality of clinical practice, and sufficient information is to, and so I think the suitable controls of the research is preferred, such as the similar structures and similar composition and similar indications of drugs. And we should also considering various complex features of real world. And there are some sources of real world data, claims dot and classifier dot and electronic medical records. The claims data, I think, is covers a patient from birth to death. It's good at to detect a daily toxicity of the drugs, and it and the spontaneous report system data has the same problem is lack of some important information, and the clinical trial data are too expensive to obtain. I think we choose the electronic medical records to use for the real-world study. This is the 13th 5-year plan for drug safety about China, and we demand us to establish the ADR monitoring and evaluation system for the full life cycle of drug safety management. The new system, about the new system, we have some consideration. It should reflect the risk of real-world medications, and expenses are relatively low, and same size should match the actual need of objective study. And I think the aim of the study should be protect the interest of patients. And the data from hospital to hospital are variable. I think, such as the age, the genders, the diagnosis, and I think not very heterogeneity. So we should cleaning, striking, standardization, and integration the data, so the data can be effective utilized. What kind of ADRs is more suitable for the data? I think the uncommon and rare ADRs is more suitable, and the ADRs with incubation period of less than 1 week is more suitable for the AMR data. This is the objective and framework of our system. We have a top-level design. The database should be openness of research, and the more important is we should protect the patient privacy and the data security. We have 3 major objectives. Evaluation the prevalence of drug-induced disease and the serious risk of specific drugs, and support for the disposal of drug safety-related emergencies. And this is inference of our system. And at the end of September 2018, we have collected about 94 million patient visit record, related about 30 million patients, meaning outpatients. But the data from hospital to hospital is significantly different. This is the gender, and the time of hospitalization about 1 to 2 weeks. The top 3 diagnoses of the data is coronary heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. And the patient numbers and genders changed with age. This is some data overview of the abnormal liver function tests patients and daily patients. I think is some interesting thing in it. And the diagnostic criteria in each hospital are different. So we build an accessory diagnosis model of the daily to unify the diagnosis. The results of active surveillance of system are similar to that of the other large-scale study of daily in China. It is conducted by my friend Yi Mingmo, and I think that the system can be afford some evidence to support the drug safety regulation. This is the research about some specific drugs, analysis and studies, and the analysis results from two source data. The first is the data from spontaneous report system. The second is electronic medical record data, and are significantly different. The result. And for another, we researched 3 injections which we detect some signal from the spontaneous report system, but the analysis result for EMR data are similar to the result of literature, but the spontaneous report data, I think, is different. But the EMR medical data, record data, are some, I think, the lack of some important information, such as the following up information. So we cannot to research a long collaboration pair of drugs with for CDRs. So we collect one patient, all of the list of one patient. For this, I think maybe we can conduct a cohort study on EMRs. We study hard on it, and I think there are many problems on it. So have a conclusion. To obtain the real-world evidence from real-world data, I think we should first acquire enough samples and contain the necessary information, and a high-quality data with integrity and trustability, I think, is very important. And the next, we should establish effective quality control procedures and develop appropriate data processing and analysis methods, and set up controls in different divisions and analysis from different perspectives. So most important is across validation, the evidence from multi-source data, I think, is most important. And so the results from each source data are different, and I think we should do more on it. If we obtain the real-world evidence, I think the drug safety can be improved by the result of the study. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Hello everyone, my name is Kazuhiro Kajiyama, working for Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency in Japan. Our office belongs to the safety department and plays a significant role in promoting the improvement of post-marketing drug safety by utilizing real-world data. So today, I would like to share with you about the latest situation of utilization of real-world data for post-marketing drug safety in Japan. Before going to the main topics, I would like to talk about the changing circumstances surrounding post-marketing safety and the necessity of the new approach for assessing drug safety. slide shows a conventional framework for this slide shows a conventional framework for providing post-marketing safety measures in PMDA. We have mainly three kinds of information for assessing drug safety, and based on the assessment, Ministry of Health takes action for ensuring the safety of public health. Those informations are provided by marketing authorization holders as a report of their pharmacovigilance activity and information sharing between foreign regulatory agencies based on confidential agreement. As you may be aware, this is an essential approach for ensuring post-marketing drug safety based on pharmacovigilance activity, routine pharmacovigilance activity. And we have relied on only this framework for assessing post-marketing drug safety. This figure shows the median time to approval from new drug application in each authorities. About a decade ago, Japan underwent an age of drug lag. More than half of the new drugs were approved, a few years behind European nations and the United States of America. In recent years, infrastructure for clinical trial has been developed and adequately fitted to ICH GCP requirement, and regulatory framework was improved for using global clinical trial in drug development. Then, Japan has overcome the challenges of drug lag. Review time in PMDA has also been improved by enhancement of our review system. So we can approve now new drug within the same time period as other nations. Under the circumstances, unfortunately, Japan is now faced with new challenges about ensuring post-marketing drug safety. For few new drugs to approved in Japan at the same time as other countries with limited experience in clinical practice, it now means Japan has to detect and evaluate unknown safety signals, assess causality of potential safety concerns, and make a decision for effective safety measures as soon as possible independently. However, PMDA had no alternative framework for assessing post-marketing drug safety except the conventional one. Therefore, we started to focus on real-world data in the field of health service in Japan. Japan has a universal health insurance system, and almost all of claim data is computerized since 2010. That claim data is well standardized and collected into a national database managed by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. In addition, the electronic medical record system is widely used in hospitals in Japan. To utilize those real-world data as an additional data source for assessing post-marketing drug safety, we have launched two projects by cooperating with the Ministry of Health. So I will start off by introducing our real-world project in next few slides. They are called the MidNet project and Mihari project. The aim of Mihari project is to establish a new framework for making a decision about safety measures on the basis of quantitative risks estimated by analyzing real-world data in Japan. In this project, we took 3 steps to establish a new framework. Firstly, we ensured accessibility to available real-world data in Japan. Secondly, characterized and understood those real-world data. And finally, conducted more than 40 pilot studies for assessing for assessing expected adverse drug reaction by analyzing real-world data using pharmacoepidemiological method. I'm not going to talk about that detail today, but we published our activity under the project, so if you have interest, please contact me later. And now I'd like to move on this MidNet project. Under the MIHARI project, we try to ensure the accessibility to the available real-world data in Japan, but it became obvious that there were too few data sources have the availability to assess pharmacoepidemiological study for making evidence for regulatory decisions. Hospital information data, including electronic medical record, seemed likely to fit the purpose. However, at the time in Japan, there was no large-scale database. So we started building a new database infrastructure by integrating multi-center hospital information system. We named the system MidNet. We have developed the system since 2011, and finally it became fully operational this April. I will go into more detail about the MidNet system. The MidNet system consists of detailed, real-time, and quality-managed information data managed by 23 hospitals in Japan. Half are academic medical centers, the others are private hospitals. And the system covered medical information for about 4 million patients in Japan. We can utilize various hospital information data, including medical examination history, discharge summary, prescription and injection order, and also laboratory test result. It contains approximately 200 laboratory test results in 23 hospitals in Japan. So we can assess potential risk, including laboratory test abnormality. The MidNet is a distributed database system, and all of hospital information are stored within each hospital. A common data extraction program can take the hospital information from the standardized and anonymized database of each hospital, and then user can analyze those extracted data. And user can use both individual data extracted from a database and summarized data if they wanted. However, users can bring out only summarized data from our system to ensure the protection of personal information. One of the most important points in utilization of real-world data is its quality. Unlike the information gathered in clinical trial, data quality of hospital information is not suitable for integration between other institutions. Even the same institutions sometimes use different management systems in different clinical departments in Japan. This made it difficult to extract and transform all of the data into one common data model. So we have verified the consistency of data between hospital information data, original data in hospital, and our database system by manually checking the data, therefore ensuring the quality of the data. Additionally, there is a lot of in-house data coding for drug usage, dosage, and units of test result. This meant we had to convert the in-house code to a unified code for extract those data from each institution by using one common data extraction program. As a result, now we can extract the same information from different hospitals by using unified code system. During the development phase, we have conducted various pilot studies making clear the applicability of the system for post-marketing drug safety. For example, this slide shows the result of the pilot study employing interrupted time series analysis using the MidNet. We compare the risk of severe hypocalcemia between different drugs before the regulatory action. Here is the regulatory action for preventing the adverse effect caused by denosumab, and after the action. As you can see, we could monitor the changing of the risk between the action, and we concluded our system can applicable for monitoring drug safety in post-marketing phase. From those pilot studies, we have confirmed the applicability of typical pharmacoepidemiological design, drug utilization study, cohort study, interrupted time series analysis, and nested case control studies. And this slide shows the current framework established under the Mihari project for making a decision about safety measures. And we just started to utilize national claims database managed by Ministry of Health, including a large portion of claims data in Japan. In this framework, we are assessing potential safety concerns of post-marketing drug by utilizing real-world data in addition to conventional data. Finally, I'd like to talk about the obligations of marketing authorization holders in post-marketing phase in Japan and recent change of the regulations. Japanese pharmaceutical regulations required marketing authorization holders to conduct two kinds of post-marketing activity, routine pharmacovigilance activity and additional pharmacovigilance activity in accordance with their risk management plan. After that, on the basis of information gathered from these activities, marketing authorization holders has taken the examination and review by PMDA to confirm safety and clinical effectiveness of the new drug. It's called the examination system. According to previous Japanese regulations, marketing authorization holders had to conduct the additional pharmacovigilance activity by only collecting patient information directly. Here, study with primary data collection. The concept of this regulation was established about 3 decades ago, so we decided to renovate the regulation to be able to utilize real-world data in additional pharmacovigilance plan. Renovation was completely finished last winter, and now marketing authorization holders can prepare application dossier for the examination based on pharmacovigilance activity by using real-world data. We named the study the Post-Marketing Database Study. In addition, PMDA and Ministry of Health have released various guidelines about utilization of real-world data in post-marketing safety assessment. The importance and requirement for ensuring reliability of the study, including ensuring data quality, transparency of data study, and reproducibility are described in ministerial notification. From PMDA, we released a point to consider for planning pharmacovigilance activity, including the way to select adequate pharmacovigilance activity for new drug. And also we released a protocol, a protocol format for pharmacovigilance activity using real-world data. So there are current situation regarding utilization of real-world data in Japan. And in conclusion, past few years, Japan has addressed various challenges to utilize real-world data for reinforcing post-marketing drug safety and improve the regulation to conduct post-marketing surveillance more efficiently. We published some guidelines for promoting database studies and ensuring the reliability of the study. And also, we launched a new consultation service for planning database study and renovated regulatory framework. And now we are focusing on international cooperation about utilization of real-world data, sharing experience and knowledge, and planning international harmonization. Now, Japan has started to use real-world data as an official data source for making evaluation data, not supplementary information in post-marketing phase. We are expecting that utilization of real-world data can help us to make regulatory decisions more scientifically, help us to supply leading-edge medical therapy with ensuring safety, and help us to improve public health. Thank you very much. It's my talk. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. If you have seen me yesterday, I apologize again. Hopefully I can say something new today. So I'm going to talk about Sentinel and Piconet. So Sentinel is an active surveillance system created by FDA as part of a congressional mandate. What it means is that in 2007, the US Congress passed what is called the FDA Amendments Act, and in that, it asked FDA to create an active post-market medical product surveillance system to complement what FDA already had, which at that time was primarily a spontaneous reporting system. So Sentinel is a pretty big project in that it has a lot of organizations involved. So what you're seeing here in the red bracket here are the data partners who contribute data to Sentinel. So most of the data partners contribute administrative claims data. So these are billing data that the insurance companies or health plans create for billing purposes. And we also have some data on electronic health records. So Dr. Kajiyama sort of explained the nuances between these databases, and you're going to be able to appreciate them more as we go through some of the examples later. So Sentinel uses a common data model, meaning that we standardize the data from different data sources and go through a pretty robust data quality assurance process before we use any data for analysis. So this is version 6 of the Sentinel Common Data Model. If you have ever used this type of databases or have encountered common data before, it looks very similar like any other data models in that it is structured into different domains. So the domains will include demographic, enrollment, diagnosis and procedures, and other things that happen during a healthcare encounter, as long as it's being recorded either for clinical purposes or for billing purposes. So one thing that I always highlight is that we pay a lot of attention to the first table here, which is the enrollment table, because at a given time, we need to know exactly how many people are in the database so that we have a very good sense of denominator, which will help us estimate the incidence and incidence rate. So that is something that you typically won't see in spontaneous report system. So that's how we sort of design the system to be complementary to the spontaneous report system. Since all the data sources will look the same after the standardization, we are able to do the analysis in a very efficient way, and also in a very privacy protecting way, meaning that the data sources, the source data and the patient level data sit behind the firewall within each data partner. And for a given analysis, we send the query out to the data sources and then get most of the time summary level information back to Boston, which is where we are, to do the final analysis. So a very typical workflow is that FDA would ask a question, and then we will finalize the specification and the analytic package, and then we will send the package to the data partners, and they will have a chance to review what the analysis is about, and then they can decide whether they want to run it or not. So this is an opt-in system, which sort of increases the data partners' willingness to participate in a project like this. So we only have a handful of situations in which data partner refuse to run a query. So 99.5% of the time, the data partner will agree and run a query. And once they agree to run it, they can run it locally within their data source. And since everyone's data looks the same, the program, which was written by us, could be run with very minimal modification at the data partner side. And after the output is generated, they also have a chance to review the output before they send it back to us for final analysis. So just to give you an example of how we have utilized the system, I like to use this example. Some of you are aware of this guidance for industry that was issued by FDA. Basically, it says that if you want your anti-hypoglycemic drug to be approved and used in the US, you have to show that there is no elevated cardiovascular risk for the medication. So this was issued in 2008, and one of the first trials that was designed to assess the cardiovascular risk was a drug called saxagliptin, which was the second DPP-4 inhibitor approved in the United States for use. So they designed a study which was a post-market cardiovascular trial in around 2009, and that was also when Sentinel or mini Sentinel then was sort of created. So FDA sort of chose this to be an example to test out the capability of doing prospective surveillance of medical products in a post-market setting. The goal was to say that, okay, there is a clinical trial, so if we did our observational study, we will be able to compare the results after both studies were completed. So it went almost exactly according to plan, but there was a delay that if we have time, we can talk about that later for the Sentinel analysis. So the study for the trial, this is a trial, was completed in 2013, and it was published in a pretty good journal. And we also sort of initiated the study at around the same time, and there's a protocol that is freely available to anyone who wants to read it and comment on it. And then the study was published earlier this year for the Sentinel analysis. So in contrast to the clinical trial, which was comparing saxagliptin with placebo, we did something slightly different. We compared saxagliptin with other drugs. So we actually performed 4 peer comparisons in the post-market setting. So to orient you on this slide, so we performed 7 sequential analysis, meaning that every time the data were updated, we did an analysis so that we can get more updated safety data from about this drug. So this was saxagliptin versus sitagliptin, which was another DPP-4 inhibitor. We did 2 analyses, which is not a focus of our presentation today. But what is important to note is that, so this is the point estimate, this is the confidence interval around the point estimate. You can see that in the first analysis, the confidence interval is very wide. This sort of reflects the fact that early in the post-market phase, you are not going to see a lot of use for most of the medications, unless this is a blockbuster that takes up the market immediately. But over time, as you accrue more data, the confidence interval sort of get narrower and narrower, which give you more confidence in the data that you have. And over time, it will stabilize. The goal, the alternative is to wait for 3 years or 5 years and do this one-time analysis. That will give you enough data. But you lose this earlier data that you could get and sort of use to make some sort of determination if there's significantly increased risk of certain medical products. So if there's an increased risk, even with very small data, you might be able to observe that. And we did the same thing for saxagliptin versus pioglitazone. You see the same pattern, more variability at the beginning, and the data or the results sort of stabilize over time. The third analysis was comparing saxagliptin with sulfonylurea, and the fourth was comparing this drug with long-acting insulin. The reason why we did these whole period comparisons was that at that time, this was about 10 years ago, when the drug was first approved, it was sort of clinically recognized to be used as a second or third line treatment. So these are all the possible alternatives to saxagliptin. So that's why FDA chose these comparisons. What is important to show here is that the different type of studies, so this is from the post-market cardiovascular trial, this is from the mini-sentinel surveillance. The comparator is different, the number of users are different. We typically get more users in the post-market setting, but you can see that the incidence or the number of events is not necessarily bigger in the post-market setting because the trial was designed to detect cardiovascular risk, so they included people who are at a high risk of cardiovascular events. And for people who use drugs in Sentinel, so these are people who use the drug in the routine real-world setting, so you get a wider spread of the cardiovascular risk. And the type of analysis is different, but the overall conclusion is very similar in that both studies did not find an increased risk of saxagliptin when it's compared to either placebo or other treatments. And another important point to note is that FDA was able to get the result from the first 5 sequential analysis before the trial was completed and published. So in that way, FDA was able to get the post-market safety data of the drug much more quickly than a traditional one-time retrospective study. So this was the sort of goal for doing prospective study. You get the safety evidence more quickly. Just to close out Sentinel before we move on to PCORNET. So drug safety assessment is actually only one component of Sentinel. We also do vaccine surveillance. So this was a study that we did a few years ago looking at rotavirus vaccine and interception. It actually led to a label change. So if you look at the label of one of the vaccines that we evaluated, you'll be able to see the result based on the Sentinel analysis. And we are also developing methods to do signal detection. So this is more like hypothesis-free analysis that will allow us to identify signals that we did not expect in the electronic healthcare databases that we have. We are also able to do something that Dr. Kajiyama also mentioned, some sort of interactive time series design to look at the impact of certain regulatory actions. So this was looking at the impact of some black box warnings that FDA issued for long-acting beta agonists. So the goal is that once you stand up the data infrastructure, you can do a lot of stuff that will be useful to you, not just safety, but also other activities that this data can support. So this is looking at medication exposure during pregnancy and also medication safety during pregnancy, which is traditionally an underrepresented population in clinical trial. And it's also very important to say that with this infrastructure, you can actually do pragmatic randomized trials. So in Sentinel, we are sort of implementing a pragmatic trial with 80,000 people. So this is a very simple trial. It's looking at patients with atrial fibrillation who should be taking anticoagulation therapy, but are not based on the claims data that we have. So we actually try to use electronic healthcare databases to identify eligible patients and randomize them. So, and then we use the routinely collected electronic healthcare data to collect information about outcomes. So these sort of make the trial more efficient and less costly. So this was a trial that was just sending out emails to 80,000 people, both for the patients and their healthcare providers. And this is something that we are also doing, which is to have mobile apps to collect additional information that you don't have in the databases. So this is sort of complementing this routinely collected data by reaching out to patients directly. And what is different about this app compared to 10,000 other apps you can download is that we can link this data back to the electronic data that the patients have already in the system. So you are not using this data as a standalone data, you'll be able to link that to other data sources for more complete picture on the patients. So when FDA sort of envisioned this Sentinel system, even though it will be created primarily for medical product safety assessment, actually FDA had a vision of sort of making the resource available to other people. So through a program called Innovation in Medical Evidence Development and Surveillance, or IMEDS, FDA is what people call opening up Sentinel to have individuals or entities like pharmaceutical companies to access the same data resources to answer the same type of questions. So we actually have a number of projects going on with a number of sponsors looking at some drug safety questions using the same Sentinel infrastructure. So I'm going to switch gear a little bit to talk about PCORNet, which might help you sort of compare and contrast the different type of data sources that we have and the type of question you can answer. So PCORNet stands for the National Patient Centered Clinical Research Network. It actually is a network of networks in that, in terms of the number of data sources, it's much bigger than what Sentinel has. It is basically, it's a mostly EHR-based network. So Sentinel is mostly claims and some EHR. PCORNet is in reverse. Most of the data comes from hospitals or delivery systems who have electronic health records that they maintain. And what is also unique about PCORNet is that it also has 20 patient-powered research networks. So these are networks that are driven or managed or organized by patients or patient advocates. So patients are actually directly involved in the research within PCORNet. PCORNet uses also a very similar structure that Sentinel uses in that it has a common data model that looks very similar to Sentinel. So what it means is that the common data model that we are talking about can accommodate both claims and EHR and other type of data sources. It also uses the same type of distributed analysis that we just talked about. So this is just, in our experience, the most practical and feasible way for you to analyze so much data from so many data sources that might have concern about patient privacy or institutional concern about sharing detailed information. So this has been shown in Sentinel and PCORNet, Aspen, and other networks that you have heard throughout this conference. I will use this example. It's not a medication example, but it sort of highlights the differences between what EHR has and what claims data has. So this is a study that we just completed looking at the long-term risks and benefit of bariatric surgery. So there are three major types of surgeries that we have in the United States to sort of treat obesity. So the first one is the adjustable gastric banding. The second is a bypass. The third is a sleeve gastrectomy. So the project was designed to look at the effectiveness and safety of these different procedures. So what we used was the electronic health record data across the country. So in total, more than 40 organizations participated in this study. So we were able to do some very straightforward descriptive analysis. So what is very interesting about this topic is that there is a huge shift in the type of procedure that is being performed in the US. So you see that the sleeve procedure just took off in recent years, followed by a drop in the other two procedures. And the size of the balloons here just indicate the sample size. So we get more data more recently compared to the earlier years. And we are able to look at percent weight loss in adults and also in children before and after the procedure. So the reason why I showed you this here is that in most claims data, you don't get information about weight or BMI, but you get that from EHR. So that's why this study could only be done, at least in the US, in EHR data source and not claims data. And we were able to look at the trajectory of the weight before and after procedures for up to 5 years. What is also very interesting to note is that we also looked at diabetes remission among patients with diabetes at baseline. And again, this is based on something like hemoglobin A1C, a lab test result that otherwise is not available in claims data, and we were able to do that. So we were able to look at cumulative incidence of diabetes remission by procedure over time, and also relapse. So some people remitted, but many of them also relapsed. So we are able to use both the prescription data for anti-hyperglycemic medication and lab test result to determine the status of diabetes remission or relapse. What I did not mention was that there is a pretty considerable missing data in this analysis. So this is again a limitation of EHR. Even though it's in theory a richer source of data sources, you do have to deal with missing data for most of the data sources. And we also looked at the major adverse events, both short-term and long-term, by procedure. So this is a study that look at both risk and benefit, so which is unique in many ways because most studies only look at one side of the coin. So again, the same concept. PCONECT can also support clinical trial in that they use electronic data sources to identify eligible patients, and then they ask for informed consent and then randomize the patients, and then use the same data infrastructure to follow up patients over time. So this is a study that included 15,000 people looking at 2 different doses of aspirin in protecting the heart. Like, they wanted to know whether the 2 doses or which dose would give you better cardio protection. So I will close with this. I think that this applies to the US and also applies to China and other Asian countries in that unless you have a universal healthcare system, but even if you have universal healthcare system, you will still have different data sources from different delivery systems or hospitals, and you can imagine or envision a national evidence generation framework in that different data sources can participate in different collaborative projects. So for example, there's a group of entities that participate in Sentinel, another group in PCONECT, another group in other collaborations. The goal is that each organization can opt in to different projects, but the different networks can sort of share their experience or tools or data model so that we can sort of reduce redundancy and sort of have a more rapid way and valid way for evidence generation. And this is my final slide. So this is just to show you that if you are able to standardize the data sources with a common data model and have appropriate governance, you'll be able to support medical product safety assessment and clinical research, comparative effectiveness research, quality of care, public health surveillance, randomized control trials. And I did not map this, but the US is starting to be able to map the different sort of domains by different collaborations. So in summary, we think that a distributed data network architecture of real-world data can really help us move forward to generating useful real-world evidence while protecting patient privacy and institutional interests. So that's why we like the approach. And this is my final slide. Thank you very much.
The last speaker is very important for our symposium. It's my honor to invite Dr. Bao Shu Wen from the Center of Drug Evaluation, China FDA. It's the focus on the pre-marketing, not post-marketing. So Dr. Wen gave us the introduction about the reform of drug evaluation system in China. Because this topic, the most contents is about the regulatory policy. So Dr. Wen will speak in Chinese. However, we prepared 2 screens. One is in the Chinese, another is in the English. And then the translation is completed by the Professor Kevin Liu. He works in the University of South Carolina College of Pharmacy. Welcome.
如果把我们目前的研究的一些成果，最后延续到我们最后的这个药品的说明书里面，实际上我们回过头来再看，我们在真正的申请人、研究者和最后的这个审评机构 之间通过一个什么样的联系，然后最后把我们所有的研究成果落实到说明书里边。首先介绍一下这个，就是我们药品审评的一个技术社会的一个责任。那么社会责任呢，主要分以下几个方面。第一个呢，就是我们要对公众看公众的需求。公众的需求里边最主要的有2方面。第一个是首先公众要在生病的时候要有药可用，这是一个最基本的保障。第二个保障就是要保证最基本的药物能够让所有的申请人他要用得起，就是这个可支付性也要做到。然后另外一个方面呢，就是我们有责任把目前这个大家都知道这个生命科学发展的尤为飞速，那么怎么样能够把真正的最新的治疗手段快速的引进到国内，让公众能够快速的使用到获得这个最新的治疗手段，那也是我们需要考虑的。另外一个，我们还要考虑国家的战略，就是国家的民生战略啊，国家的创新战略。大家都知道，我们在国家在11.5、12.5、13.5都分别弄了好多这个重大专项的项目来推动我们国家的一个创新。还有一个就是对工业界，那么我们对工业界在我们现行的条件下，怎么样来转型升级？我们为工业界能够提供什么样的保障，然后提供一些帮助。另外一个就是要参与到国际竞争里面，国际竞争里面就涉及到我们怎么样制定相应的一些技术标准，能够真正的跟国际接轨。然后国际上目前现在它在发生的一些变革，我们怎么样能够跟国际实现对接，来做一些工作。这个是我们目前面临的一些挑战。也就是说，从13年到17年，我们目前国内的这个创新药的临床实验的申请量明显增加。也就是说，之前我们这个国内和国外的比较，国内的占不到40%，而现在到去年为止，我们国内的创新药的临床实验的比例已经到了60%。那么这些所有的这些国际竞争，然后国内情况的变化，还有包括我们行业的一些变化，那么就要求我们不断的在做一些调整。15年我们这个改革拉开了序幕，就是国务院发了44号文之后，那么在这个44号文里面就有一个很大的变化，也就是说新药的定义跟以往不一样。那么在以往我们说中国新就是创新药，而到了我们现在的按新分类的标识的话，那就是全球新，也就意味着我们现在面临的挑战跟欧美日韩等都是一样的。也就是说，我们和原先国际多种临床实验大家都知道，那么我们一般来讲都是在国外进入了2期之后，然后我们才引入到国内。那么现在最大的一个变化就是将来那变成国内外的一个同步的研究。那么他们所面临的所有的挑战，我们将同样的面对。那么我们已经站在最前沿。那么这个时候对我们目前的挑战是非常大的。那么我们的临床机构，我们的这个研究者，我们的药品审评，我们的后续的这个药物的警戒、不良反应的收集等等，现在我们有没有做好准备？那么这一点呢，对我们来说是一个最大的一个挑战。那么我们目前的改革呢，其实有2个核心，一个就是提高药品的质量，这个大家都知道，不管是临床前还是临床实验，那么都在不断的就围绕着怎么样提高质量来做一些工作。第2个核心内容呢，就是我们目前要首先呢，就是鼓励创新。刚才讲到了创新，这个新药的定义发生了变化之后，是一个很大的一个变化，就我们目前现在都还没有准备好。 尤其是我们的机构现在有没有准备好，现在都还是急需要大家关注的。那么另外就是后续的我们把临床急需的创新药物的优先审评，这个也是目前国内在政策调整上做的一个最大的一个变化。这个后边我们还会讲那个国务院的发布的一些新的一些公告。那么我们所有面临的这些形势，就像我们这个审评机构要建成一个什么样的，才能保证我们要达到的目标。你比方说怎么样提高质量，怎么样来保证创新药的研发，怎么样能够真正的把后续的大家在真实世界中，也就是说发生的这些数据和证据，怎么样能够把它变成到我们的这个真正的这个服务到这个公众的健康里面去。那么我们这个机构呢，要变成一个怎么样符合现代化的一个审评机构。那么它的最基本的职能就是首先要保证它的质量，保证它的疗效。第二个就是我们要对产业整个的转型升级和创新的发展的引导性和促进性，我们要做好充分的准备。同时我们还要对国际前沿的发展，然后国际技术标准的这个敏感性、融合性和开放性。也就是说，我们怎么样能够保证将来，比方说我们现在加入了 ICH， 那么在 ICH 里边，它现在所有的这些准则，包括一些技术标准，怎么样和我们国内能够结合起来？这个是我们要持续关注的。怎么样把国外的这个标准引进到国内来？你比如说这个生物类似物，它现在的一些研究的技术指南，包括后续的，昨天吧，我看在网上 FDA 又发了一个关于仿制药怎么样把它变成一个仿制药的研究，怎么样把它变成一个 ICH 的一个指导原则。那么这个就作为一个国际化的一个标准，让所有的这个申请人都按照统一的标准来做，然后让这个一个申请人可以他准备一套资料就可以在全球申报仿制药，这个也是一个很大的一个挑战。那么在整个这个过程当中，我们现在通过什么样的方式，然后把我们这个现在所有的这个数据能够在审评过程当中，我们是通过什么样的方式来把它提成出去，然后把它变成我们一个整体的一个政策，包括最后做一个我们对一个产品的一个决策。那么就是首先我们在过程当中也是，就是申请人提交的数据是不是足够，是不是完整，那么是不是规范。那么这样呢，我们把这个数据经过分析完了之后，最后得出结论。这个结论最后我们对这个产品再做一个最后的一个决策，是上市还是说需要其他的一些那个补充工作。那么整个在这个管理过程当中，我们一直持续的就是要质量、效率和一致性。一致性大家都刚才已经很清楚了。那么就是说，我们要怎么样跟国际的这个技术标准的完整的对接，而保证在过程当中所有审批尺度的一致性。那么这个过程里面就有很多我们现在所遵循的，比方说我们用各种各样的一些方式来保证在这个过程当中，我们能够满足我们对一致性的一些要求，对质量的一些要求，包括我们现在确定了一些专家的一些论证会，包括我们内部的一些会议，怎么样来统一审批尺度，保证它最后是一个集体的一个决策。这个呢，就是一个42号，就是我们那个去年10月份正式发布的，也就是说推动创新的一个重要的一个改革文件。那么在这个文件里面，在这个里面就对后续的这个临床实验做了一个很大的调整。那么未来临床实验可能需要我们目前批准的方式发生了重要的变化，也就是说，之前是一个审评的机制，现在呢是60天末世许可，也就是说这个是跟国际接轨了。如果在60天内，如果这个审评机构没有提出反对意见，申请人就可以依照自己 申请的这个临床实验方案，直接开展临床实验。还有一个很大的变化，就是我们目前对临床机构的这个管理也发生了变化，就取消了一些认证的方式，那么将来采用了一些备案的管理，后边还有一些相应的内容。未来呢，我们在这个一些重大疾病上面和一些这个罕见病上面，那么可能会更往前走一步。也就是说，对一些重大疾病和罕见病呢，我们可以采用一些境外的研究数据，可以直接到国内来申请生产。那么这个呢，未来有一个。我们有一个23号公告，这个下面我会给大家介绍。那么为了加快这个临床实验呢，我们现在制定了相应的一些指导原则，这个包括这个有条件批准的，有条件批准的就是不像以前所要求的，就必须的是一个随机双重对照的一个，还再加上验证性的实验等等。这个呢可以通过现有的一些数据，如果有明确的那个治疗效果，然后可以来直接申请生产。但是对于这个数据来说，我们和大家的这个想法是一致的。那么这个数据呢，必须要保持它的真实、它的完整和规范。这个刚才已经介绍过了，就是这个临床实验的管理方式的一些变化。这个是有条件批准，它一些目前的一些技术指南上的一些调整。这个就是最近发的一个公告，就是50号公告，就是实施了这个60天的末世许可。在这里想给大家也介绍一下，就是60天末世许可它是事实上在 FDA 也是一样的，它对60天来说，事实上真正的功夫都是在60天之外，就是在受理之前的这个有大半年的时间，事实上申请人和 FDA 包括和我们现在都是在一个频繁的一个交流过程当中，这样呢才能保证，就是说你真正的申报进来的资料能在90分以上，然后在过程当中60天不需要发布，不需要开会就能顺利的通过。然后这个过程当中要不断的通过沟通交流，这个 pre-IND 会议啊等等这些都必须要做得很好。好，我分享的就这些，谢谢。
Thanks for all the speakers for wonderful presentations. I'm Krishna from India. My question to the first speaker about the adverse drug reactions in China. So just I would like to know the collection of adverse drug reaction information. It is in Chinese or it is in English? The information collecting for adverse drug reactions, the language, it is in Chinese or it is in English? For the first speaker.
The question is for me or?
First speaker.
The first speaker, yes.
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 Can you repeat your question? Because there's echo, we couldn't hear you well.
The information collecting for adverse drug reactions, it is in Chinese or it is in English? It's in English.
No. In Chinese. The AE report in Chinese.
Okay. And China is a part of WHO International Drug Monitoring Program, which is from Uppsala Monitoring Center, having around 120 centers. So China is a part of it.
Is your question regarding to the standard, whether they're using the WHO standard, or are you talking about sending the report?
Yes.
To WHO.
Yes.
就是你是不是？
是的，我中国呢也加入了这个 WHO 的这个包括一个共享的一个计划，然后每年呢我们会有一定数量的报告和 WHO 那个 visualize，或者
following the WHO monitoring plan. Yeah, I think at least 20 years. 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. So every year, China send, I think, mainly part of reports to the SULA.
Thank you.
Any question?
Waiting from MSD. One question for our PMPA colleague. For the midnight, my understanding is still kind of in the early phase. What do you think about the midnight or the other data network? Are they going to replace the job user survey in the future, or it's kind of two independent initiatives where the sponsors still have to do the job user survey, but in complement with the midnight network? I can repeat it, yeah. So I'm asking for the midnight network. In the future, will it be replaced the traditional drug user survey where the company has to do it after you drug get approval, you have to do intensive monitoring, or it's actually complement with the traditional drug user survey?
Your question is applicability for companies of
Yeah.
Midnight. Yeah, thank you very much for question. Actually, Midnight can use not only PMDA but also pharmaceutical company and researchers in academic field in Japan. But unfortunately, at the current this moment, basically, Midnight can use after application and submit approved by steering committee. But in this time, application form is only Japanese, so it mainly major customer is in Japan. But of course, company who had branch in Japan, they can utilize Midnight for utilizing their pharmacobusiness activity. Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm not a person working in PMDA, but I want to add some information. In principle, the company should use the best way to address the issue. It could be midnight, it could be primary data collection, and it could be primary data collection with the control groups. The best way should be decided or should be taken after the discussion between the company.
Thank you very much.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. It's correct. Thank you very much for following.
Any more questions? We have a couple minutes left. Yeah, I have a question. Yes, to Derek. Yeah. I wonder, could you give us maybe some numbers? What are the key regulatory impacts by the Sentinel initiative? Maybe, for example, how many drugs withdraw based on the Sentinel study?
Oh, that's a great question. So no drug has been withdrawn because of the Sentinel analysis, because it takes a lot for a drug to be withdrawn. I think that what is important to note is that sometimes no decision is a decision, and a lot of the time, the data or the result that we provided to FDA provide reassurance to FDA. So that's why most of the time they didn't think that a major decision is necessary. There's actually a page on the Sentinel website that lists all the regulatory decisions that FDA has made based on the Sentinel results. So it's somewhere on the Sentinel website. But if you're interested, I can send a link to you. So FDA is increasingly try to be even more transparent than it is to just list out all the decisions that he has made based on the survey results. So it is there, but a lot of time there was no decision to be made. So that's why it's hard to say that. But that's what happened most of the time.
Thank you.
We have a few minutes for one last question. Professor Xu.
My question is, I'm Alex. I'm from Amgen. So my question is to PMDA. Sorry, I forgot. So you mentioned that PMDA decided to use database survey instead of drug intensity monitoring. To monitor the safety. Can you elaborate more about what are the reasons or initiative, why you changed from, a kind of post-marketing prospective trials to monitor into more of using the database? So what are the drivers? What are the reasons?
Thank you, Ben. Your question is why we changed the framework for post-marketing safety. Yeah.
Like in China, it requires that drug monitoring, intensive monitoring, they require 3,000 patient follow-up for safety, and in Korea it's the same. And in Japan, you now change the policy more to use the database analysis instead of prospective monitoring safety.
Thank you very much. Few years ago, Japan relies on only spontaneous report for assessing post-marketing safety. It's essential for assessing post-marketing drug safety in post-marketing phase. However, some of speakers mentioned there are some limitations for assessing safety in drug based on post-marketing if using only spontaneous report. So we have to overcome such kind of challenges, and fortunately Japan has a lot of information, a lot of healthcare information already accumulated in any database, some database. So we focus on utilizing such kind of data for assessing drug safety in post-marketing phase. Yeah, is it?
I heard from your explanation is that previously you only use spontaneous reporting as a way to monitor the safety instead of asking you have to monitor 3,000 a kind of post-marketing. Is that my understanding correct?
Sorry. It's maybe my English ability is not.
Maybe you can follow up with Dr. Kajiyama after the
follow up.
session.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Yeah.